The Iran war is the first war since 1945 that the United States has accepted a humiliating ceasefire. The 10-point plan that was presented by Iran is nothing but a humiliation for the United States. And honestly, I still cannot possibly believe that the United States accepted this deal. But what if I told you it wasn't just Iran that forced the United States, but rather some allies of the United States pushed the United States to accept this deal? Now, there has been 10 points, but some of the points are that Iran will have full control over the Strait of Hormuz. It means that Iran can charge tolls because you cannot possibly pass the Strait of Hormuz without the permission of the United States. Before the war, the strait was completely open, and if Iran tried to charge the ships that will cross the Strait of Hormuz, it would turn the entire world against them. Secondly, the United States will completely abandon the Middle East. So US forces, US military bases will be closed, and the United States will no longer be in the Middle East. This is something unheard of. This is something even impossible for me to comprehend. Thirdly, the United States will pay for the reconstruction of Iran. Yesterday, we destroyed their naval ships. Yesterday, we have bombarded their infrastructure. Yesterday, we destroyed a country. And today, we'll literally just pay for the reconstruction of the same thing that we have destroyed yesterday. And who is going to pay for that? The American taxpayers. Fourthly, all sanctions will be removed from Iran. And that is literally the best win for Iran, because Iran has been under the sanctions of the United States and the international community at the pressure of the United States for the last 50 years, and Iranian economy, frankly speaking, has been collapsing. So it is really difficult to believe that the United States did accept these terms. In fact, according to Donald Trump himself, that these are the failing New York Times and the fake news CNN reported a totally fake 10-point plan on the Iran negotiations. All the 10 points were a complete made-up hoax. Well, that's according to Donald Trump. But here's the reality. We know that there is a ceasefire. These 10 points were reported by the Iranian government. If you, Donald Trump, believe that this is a hoax, why don't you present us with the 10 points that you have agreed with Iran so that we know for a fact that these points reported by the New York Times or CNN are complete nonsense? I'm not trying to defend them, but if that is false and that is a report from the Iranian government, then why don't you tell us the 10 points? So it's really difficult to verify what is true and what is false. The only way we can do that is simply read Donald Trump's tweets. And whatever matches the Iranian government, most likely that is true. Because if it's said by the Iranian government and if it's confirmed by Donald Trump, then most likely that's what they agreed upon. First of all, Donald Trump personally has tweeted this letter. This is a letter that is posted by the Iranian government accepting a ceasefire. But here's what I want you to pay attention to. At the end of that letter, again, this was posted by Donald Trump. For a period of 2 weeks, safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz will be possible via coordination with Iran's armed forces with due consideration of technical limitations. This basically means that, yes, ships will be able to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, but only under the guidance of the Iranian military. And the Iranian military will have full control over the Strait of Hormuz. And if the Iranian military will say that you have to pay a toll, which is $2 to $3 million per ships, then that is the cost of passing the Strait of Hormuz. So since Donald Trump has tweeted it, and this is part of the 10-point plan, then most likely it is true. Let's take another example. Donald Trump tweets that we will be taking tariffs and sanctions relief with Iran. It basically means that we will be removing sanctions out of Iran. Well, that's basically one of the points of the 10-point plan, that the United States will take off the sanctions out of Iran. And since Donald Trump is tweeting about that, then most likely this is true. Again, I'm not coming out with this. This is what the Iranian government said, and this is what Donald Trump has tweeted. Let's take another example. Donald Trump says that big money will be made. So we are talking about something really, really positive here. Iran can start the reconstruction process. So there has been a war over the last 1.5 months, and now Iran can start rebuilding what has been destroyed during the war. So these are the Iranian military, the Iranian ships, the Iranian fighter jets, the Iranian infrastructure. But here's the important thing. We will be loading up with supplies of all kinds. So we will be helping Iran with the reconstruction. So maybe we will deliver them steel, maybe we will get them the planes, maybe we will get them the ships or whatever they need. So the United States of America will be helping Iran to rebuild their country. Basically, Donald Trump says that this could be the golden age of Middle East. So the fact that Donald Trump has agreed to rebuild Iran after this war, which was one of the main points of these ceasefires, seems legitimate. Let's take one more example. All ships and aircrafts and the military personnel will remain in place and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with it. So the US military will stay in the Middle East until the final agreement signed. So they have agreed on 10-point plan as a framework to work with, but it's not the final agreement. So until the final agreement will be signed, let's say a month from now, 2 months from now, or 3 months from now, then the US military is going to leave the entire Middle East. So he's not directly saying that, but honestly, if you read this, that's basically what it potentially means. I'm not sure for a fact. So based on what Donald Trump has been tweeting lately, it seems like the 10-point plan that we all know and heard from the Iranian government is most likely true. Now here's the question, is that how did such a tiny country such as Iran force the United States to sign an agreement that is literally not in the favor of the United States at all? Iran is really weak and has no power over the United States. The United States can keep bombarding Iran with fighter jets, and there is absolutely nothing that Iran can do. The Iranian GDP is about $350 billion, which is a fraction of the United States. There is no power that this country has over the United States. So why did the United States agree to all of the proposals that Iran put in front in order to start the negotiations? Another thing is that the United States does not even get the oil out of the Middle East. If you look at the United States, there's literally a small tiny fraction of the entire oil that hits the United States that comes from the Middle East. In fact, the United States is the world's largest producer of oil. Literally, if that oil never comes out of the Middle East, it is not going to impact the United States. There is still going to be oil in the United States. But what are the countries that are suffering because of this? Think about it. These are Asian countries. This is Japan. This is China. These are European countries. So what did Donald Trump told these countries just recently? All of these countries that can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the UK, but it's not just the UK, it's also Japan and China, which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran. So these countries do not want to be involved in this war. They basically told the United States, you started the war, go and fight the war on your own. I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy oil from the United States. We have plenty. Fortunately, the United States is already producing oil at full capacity. It can manufacture more. Number two, build up some delayed courage. Go to the strait and take it. You will have to start learning how to fight for yourself. And the United States will no longer be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't there for us. So the United States is basically telling Japan and the UK and China that all that oil that you need, because 95% of the Japanese oil is now stuck in the Middle East, 55% of the Chinese oil is stuck in the Middle East. You want that oil? Go ahead and take it. What do I have to do here? This is not my oil and I don't even need this oil. So if you want it, please go and open the Strait of Hormuz on your own. I am not going to help you. Well, these two countries, or all of these countries, have accepted Donald Trump's challenge. And they decided to win this war and let their ships cross the Strait of Hormuz without shooting a single bullet. You see, the Chinese people have a 5,000-year civilization. Japanese people are also very patient, very strategic people. So they wanted to resolve this conflict without shooting a single bullet. Because think about it this way. If China and Japan are going to send their aircraft carriers, if they have any, to the Strait of Hormuz, do you think it is going to escalate the problem or solve the problem? Most likely, it is going to escalate the entire crisis, and it's not going to help them. But in 6 months from now, all of these countries will run out of oil. So they needed to come up with a diplomatic solution to solve this problem. That's what the art of the war says. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. So instead of sending soldiers, instead of sending aircraft carriers, instead of sending planes, they had to force both of these countries, the United States of America and Iran, to a ceasefire so that these ships can possibly cross. Yes, they will pay a 2 million toll per ship to cross the Strait of Hormuz, but that is much cheaper than paying so much for the military. Just for the context that the United States right now is paying about $1 billion a day for this military operation. So paying a few $1 million a day to let these ships cross is far cheaper than an entire military operation. And that's where the US national debt comes in. The US national debt is a double-edged sword. On one side, it is helping the United States. It is making the US dollar the global reserve currency. Without such national debt, it is impossible for the United States to have the global reserve currency. And because it is the global reserve currency, capital from all around the globe flies back to the United States, which keeps growing the US GDP. On the other side, these countries that loan so much money to the US government have some power and influence over the United States. Now here's the question that you should be asking yourself. The US debt expires, but why is the United States government never pays back the debt? Every time you go and borrow money, for example, a credit card debt, there is a date when you have to pay that debt back. When you get a mortgage, it's a 30-year mortgage. So 30 years from now, all that debt must be paid back. When you get an auto loan, there is always a deadline. So ask yourself this basic question. What is the deadline for the US debt? Well, the reality is that the deadline has passed multiple times. So why didn't the US government pay back the debt? The answer is very simple. The largest holder of the US debt, which are Japan, China, the UK, and similar nations, what they do is that every single time the US debt expires, they take that money and buy back the exact same debt. So they're constantly reinvesting the same money back to the United States. And because they're holding the US debt and they're earning interest from the United States government, they're reinvesting that interest back into the United States, loaning more money to the US government. But why would they do that? Because it's a good business. They're making money out of it. Imagine you're sitting on over $1 trillion and the US government is offering you 1% that is higher than inflation. If inflation is 2.6% or 2.8%, you can get 3.8% from the US government. Where else are you going to invest that money? And God forbid, if you need cash, you can instantly turn that money into cash and use it to buy oil, for example, which is the most important necessity to run your economy. So it was beneficial for these nations, including China and Japan, and at the same time was beneficial for the United States because the United States has the global reserve currency and the United States can export its inflation and the US GDP would grow much faster than any other economy. If you pull out and look at all the major economies, you will see that not a single country could even come close to the United States when it comes to the GDP growth. That's why the US has the world's largest GDP. But here's the most important question. China and Japan that have the most important or the largest US Treasury reserves, what happens if they stop buying the US Treasuries? Just stop for a moment and ask yourself. The US debt expires, the bonds expire, and Japan refuses to buy more of the US Treasuries. What happens? That slows down the demand for the US Treasuries, but the United States does not intend to pay back that debt. So because there is weak demand for the US Treasuries and there is still enough supply, that means that the yields on the US Treasuries are going to rise. But here's the next question. What happens if Japan, instead of buying so much US Treasuries, they will start selling them because they need that money to buy oil at a very, very expensive price? Yesterday, they paid that oil, or for that oil, $50 a barrel. Now they will pay for that oil $150 per barrel. So they will be massively selling US Treasuries. And at the same time, this war against Iran is fully funded with debt. The US government is not taking money from taxes. The US government is borrowing money from the public to fund this war. When in the market, you have very huge supply of the US Treasuries, but very little demand, especially by the largest borrowers or the largest lenders to the US government, the yields on the US Treasuries instantly rise. And a single rise in percentage yields is going to cost the government right now about $400 billion. If they rise by 2%, that will cost the US government $800 billion. So, given the fact that the United States has paid last year $1 trillion in interest payments, a 2% rise in yields would increase that to $1.8 trillion. A 3% would increase it to $2.4 trillion. And that is the power and the influence that these countries have over the United States. But it's not just going to impact the American government, but rather it is going to impact you. The entire debt market is one giant market. So if the yields on the US government debt are going to rise, guess what? The mortgage rates on you are also going to rise. So taking a mortgage is going to be a lot more expensive. Now they have already risen since the start of the conflict. Because of this reason, they can rise to 8%, 9%. Imagine for a moment how much more expensive it is going to be to buy a house when mortgage rates are going to cross 10%. And this is just one implication. That is also going to lead to higher auto loans, to higher credit card loans. And because the entire US government is a debt-driven economy, you can see how quickly that is going to cause a huge recession in the United States. Which is why, most likely, the only reason that the United States has accepted this ceasefire is because countries such as Japan and China has pressured the United States and told the US that you want us to cross and take our ships and bring the oil back to our countries that is stuck right now in the Middle East. We need a ceasefire. And this is the only way that Iran is going to accept a ceasefire, which the United States unfortunately is accepted. Or maybe fortunately, I don't know. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's finally time to put an end to this war. The question is that what is going to happen next? Most likely, this ceasefire is not going to last for long. In fact, if you watch the news, the ceasefire has already collapsed. Iran has accused Israel for attacking Lebanon, so Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz, which means that we are literally back to square one. Maybe the United States is simply using these 2 weeks to bring down oil prices and calm down its partners and use this as an opportunity to prepare itself for ground invasion. Whether the war is going to continue or not, the most important thing that you have to do right now is that you have to prepare yourself financially. Because if there is going to be a ground invasion, it is still going to shoot yields to catastrophic levels, which is going to make the US dollar worthless because the US government will have to borrow trillions of dollars to fight this war. If this is an actual ceasefire and the United States is going to abandon the Middle East, that is going to be the petrodollar, which means that the US dollar is no longer going to be as powerful as it was in the past, which means that the value of the dollar will continue falling down while gold prices will continue rising. And if you haven't actually invested your money in the right assets, you are going to be one of the biggest losers of this war. So if you want a step-by-step instruction on how to invest, where to invest, and how do you take advantage out of this war, then join the Investing Academy. The link is in the description of this video.